Hey guys, and welcome back to the HellfireComms Ghiblithon. Today we're going to be taking a look at Only Yesterday, which is a film I have absolutely zero experience with. Nada, nil, bupkis. And I think the same goes for you, isn't that right, Rich?
Well, so I have watched it. I know I have watched it, but I have very few memories about it. I think because it slightly bored me when I watched it the first time, but I'll go into more of that when we're actually in the commentary, because Only Yesterday's got a peculiar release history.
Okay. Well, let's wait until we get into the commentary to discuss that. As usual, guys, if you need help syncing up our commentary to your movie file, check the video description for instructions and so on. Okay, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Hokey cokey, Only Yesterday. Oh, look at this, we're getting the Universal logo, that's new.
Well, you see, the reason for this is because, might as well go into the peculiar instance of Only Yesterday's release, because, so, the original film came out in 1991.
Uh-huh.
But it didn't make it anywhere west until 2006, and even then that was only Germany, Australia and the UK. So I have a DVD of Only Yesterday, which came out in 2006, but it's only in Japanese and it's only in sub. But in 2016, G-Kids / Universal Pictures / Studio Canal came together to re-release Only Yesterday, and they decided that they wanted to give it an English dub for the first time ever. And so yes, so this is from 2016, so it's actually really recent in terms of... Yes, Daisy Ridley's in it, Dev Patel's in it. They've got some pretty damn good people from modern films to voice in this, and I think really good choice.
Yeah, this is bizarre. It's like one of the older films that we're covering, but it's one of the most recent adaptations, as it were.
Exactly. It's quite frankly weird. Yeah, America had never gotten Only Yesterday until 2016, which I'm slightly flabbergasted by. It's the same with Ocean Waves, because the UK and other regions, I believe we got it in 2010, but America, I don't think, got it until 2016, and even then, I'm not sure whether they've still got it yet.
That's another film I'm
so that's another one
curious about.
That's another film that has another bizarre release history, but the important thing is this is Only Yesterday, directed by Isao Takahata, who also did Grave of the Fireflies and obviously other films that we will go into throughout the Ghiblithon. But yes, I think the reason why I don't necessarily remember much about Only Yesterday is that it's a very slow film at the end of the day. And that's because it's very much memoir-based, because it's based on a manga of the same name, which is Omoide Poro Poro, which is literally Memories Come Tumbling Down, which is... so it's a story about the main character, Taiko, as an 11-year-old, and it's just a compilation of short stories about her daily life. And it's just filled with nostalgic feelings, and so on and so forth. But for Takahata, he had a very difficult time making that into a movie because the original manga was very episodic.
Mm-hmm.
So that couldn't really form the basis of a film. Funnily enough, Takahata would then go on to make a very episodic film in My Neighbours the Yamadas. But at this point in his career, it wasn't a thing that he did. So since the manga was told in the form of a memoir, Takahata had the idea of bringing the narrator of the story, adult Teiko, into the movie, and having this whole adult narrative going side by side with the young narrative. And as an idea, that's fascinating. But when I watched this, I think it might have been the language barrier.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it was a slow film, and it's memoir-based, it's very normal in comparison to so many of the other Ghibli films. I just found it a bit boring.
Huh. I gotta say, the art style is very minimalistic so far. It's very understated.
I mean, that's basically this film in a nutshell. And you can also see elements of Takahata's personal style beginning to develop a bit more, because he goes for this more minimalistic style. Like a slightly more washed out colour palette in things that looks slightly more painted. Then he takes it to a much more cartoony place in My Neighbours the Yamadas, then he takes it to a much more traditional place in The Tale of Princess Kaguya. And both of those are visually very impressive. But this sort of forms a start to that, and it's nice to see it so lovingly restored and so crisp and clean.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, ah.
You know, when we record stuff, we just take whatever qualities we can get in regards to movie copies. But thank you, person who uploaded this and didn't compress it to shit. I gotta say, I love the background so far. The art style itself is nice, but the backgrounds are almost watercolour-like.
Yeah, I think it's because they're going for that sort of faded photograph look with the background. I mean, you can see it in the poster for Only Yesterday. It's got that vibe. And you can see it in the film in comparing modern day Teiko, well, present day Teiko, of whenever she is. I think the present day Teiko, it's in 1982 for her as an adult, and child Teiko takes place in 1966. But the 1966 stuff has got that faded photograph look, whereas adult Teiko's life in 1982 is very much more typical art style.
So, who is modern Teiko voiced by? Is it Daisy Ridley by any chance?
Yes, Teiko's voiced by Daisy Ridley, which is really awesome because obviously she's only very, very recently come to prominence with the Star Wars third trilogy, which is pretty awesome.
Well, I have mixed feelings on Rey as a character, but we're not here to talk shit about Star Wars.
Exactly, and while you may have problems with Rey as a character, Daisy Ridley as an actress is pretty awesome, and from what I can tell, critics absolutely love her performance in this film. I mean, when critics got their hands on this, they sort of fell head over heels in love with it, which I find quite fascinating, but part of me has the suspicion that the reason that took place is because it's a sort of legacy Ghibli film coming out sort of after Ghibli'd gone quiet, because after when Marnie was there, they basically said, we're basically shutting up shop now for big feature film productions because it costs a lot of money and we can't necessarily do it so much anymore. Obviously, because also Miyazaki had retired, and it was just like, yeah, Miyazaki's our poster child. We're a bit screwed. So I don't know whether, with Only Yesterday being released after that, critics got actually very nostalgic for Ghibli. And so maybe treated it much more, well, saw it much more highly than it perhaps actually is. But then, to be fair, as I've said, I've not actually seen this dub, so this could actually solve a lot of the problems that I had with my original viewing of the film.
I gotta say, the stakes so far aren't as high as North Squirrel Grave of the Fireflies.
Oh god, no. There are basically no stakes in this film. It is just an adult woman looking back at her childhood and her experiences and the nostalgia she feels for those times. I think basically the idea is, because obviously Japan's culture is very, well, it's not entirely different to the West in terms of men and women, but it sort of is. But the idea is that Teiko is 27, she's unmarried, and has lived her whole life in Tokyo, and now works at a company there. And it's sort of that whole thing of the fact that she's 27 and unmarried, and everyone's expecting her, why don't you have a husband yet? What are you doing with your life? And she doesn't know what she's doing with her life, and so she goes to try and figure that out.
Wow, holy shit! That's the conceit of this fucking part of the movie. Cutting a piece of fruit.
Well, yeah, but the thing is that if you've never seen a pineapple before, if you don't know what it is, how you eat it, you kind of have to find these things out, and that's actually sort of exciting.
Been using the word conceit a lot recently. I hope I've been using it correctly, or boy, I'm going to retroactively look even more of a dumbass than I already do.
I mean, you've probably been using it slightly incorrectly.
Why didn't you correct me then?
I mean, you have been using it sort of correctly, because it can mean something that is conceived in the mind, a thought or an idea. So you have been using it correctly in the sense of saying that's the idea of this point in the movie, but obviously the primary meaning of the word is being filled with excessive pride in oneself.
Conceited.
Yes.
Interesting touch how they're eating the pineapple chunks like they were the watermelon, so they're not adapting, like, to this strange foreign fruit.
Well, yeah, because if you don't know what you're doing with the damn thing, you're kind of just going, well, I'll try and eat it like I normally would. And, this tastes strange. I'm not sure whether I like it or not.
Boy, howdy. Oh, I think we're going to have to spice up this commentary with some of our own nostalgic anecdotes, mate. So, what's a comfy memory from your childhood that you can pull out of your memory banks?
I mean, I'd say, like, probably the go-to that I have with comfy nostalgic memories is going to the Panto on Christmas Eve.
Oh, yes.
Every year.
I think you told this one
God knows how
before,
many years.
Yeah.
I've told it before, but it's the one that I always go back to, because I just always look back on those Christmases and all of us being together as a family and going out to the theatres to see the Panto and just having a brilliant time.
Uh-huh.
And then just the excitement of coming home after that to then go to bed and then wake up and it's Christmas Day, and that's just always a very magical memory, and I think it's basically why I love pantomime as a theatre show type thing so much, because it's just so much fun, and I don't think I would be the person I was today were it not for all those Christmases going to the Panto. Have you got any particularly nostalgic moments?
Well, as you can probably tell by my personality, I was spoiled. I was an only child. Shit wasn't tolerated. Let me put that out there right now. But I always used to get a lot of presents on Christmas, and I just remember coming down to like 2 or 3 sacks of presents upon a Christmas, and setting up an N64 on a black and white TV, and then on a further Christmas, a Dreamcast and whatnot, dying to Chaos Zero, obviously, because I'm terrible like that.
Obviously.
But Christmas was a good time. Still is. I don't think I'm ever going to grow out of feeling like a child come Christmas, honestly.
Of course, I mean, you can't grow out of Christmas. It's just fun. It only becomes depressing if you make it depressing. Or, you know, if something actually bad happens to you at one Christmas, and then that basically kind of ruins it for you forever. But hopefully that doesn't happen to you or anybody, because that's certainly not fun.
Ah, all the other essays are shit. Total garbo. Never had any of those experiences, honestly. Not an A student, let's put it that way.
Now, you see, obviously I was an AA star student, but we didn't tend to put our work up on the wall as a brilliant example. It was very much more everyone's goes up on the wall. You do a little project for everyone's thing to go up on the wall, rather than this one's going up because it's good. But yeah, it's strange. Like when you look back at going to school and just how much time it takes up. Like, I remember when I was at school, like, time just felt like it went on forever.
Yeah, very
and
much so.
years felt like they were just so long. But as I'm getting older, I just look back and just go, Jesus wept. Like, I was only, like, I feel like I was at university, like, only a couple of months ago, but, like, I left 2 years ago now, and I started 5 years ago at university, which is just like, what? It just boggles the mind how quickly time begins to go as you get older, and I'm just slightly terrified of how quickly it's gonna go as I get even older, because it's just like, I'm not ready for time to go that quickly.
Oh, it's going to be one of those commentaries, is it? I didn't want feels on this trip, thank you very much. Holy shit, it's a young me. Oh!
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably a young me in there somewhere as well. Oh, yeah, that's a young me.
The moment you said it is why your spirit animal popped up on screen. I don't think I can relate to this particular situation. Honestly, 0 out of 10, would not watch again.
To be honest, I don't think we ever had anything like this either. Like, to be fair, most British primary schools, and I suppose because Taiko is meant to be 12 here, so that would actually be senior school. Yeah, no, this just didn't happen. You went to your lessons, and that was about it. Even when you were at primary school, when you're in your class, and that is your class for every subject, you just didn't do anything in this sort of structure. You just did your lessons and had fun, but then got really stressed because you got like SATs, which were just like, why am I being forced to do exams? I'm like 11.
This is a bit much at that age. You never really appreciate that at the time.
Oh yeah, like, you get incredibly stressed out over something that is really not important whatsoever.
If there was milk available at the time, trust me, I'd take it, but unfortunately, someone decided to snatch our milk back in the day.
To be fair, I'm more annoyed. Well, I'm not annoyed, but I still find it hilarious that basically, as a child, I was going through school when Jamie Oliver, who's a chef in the UK, had his attack on trying to get turkey Twizzlers taken out of school meals, and he was trying to revolutionise them to make them more healthy.
Yeah, well...
And he sort of succeeded, but basically made every child in the country hate him. Because we were just like, but we wanted our turkey Twizzlers. Why are you taking away our turkey Twizzlers? I don't know why turkey Twizzlers were the thing, but they were. And, recently, he's gone on to say that schools should stop doing bake sales so often.
What?
Because, I think the idea is that there's too much sugar in cakes, and therefore it's promoting unhealthy eating. But, just sod off with that. A bake sale is brilliant because it teaches your child how to cook. It teaches them about paying for foods and services. And also, it's a cake sale. It's fun. And also potentially raising money for charity. What's not to like about a cake sale?
Also cakes! Yum yum in my tum!
Exactly! It's a cake!
What the fuck just happened there? I'm completely lost.
Basically, what I believe happened is that 3 girls from another class went in to see Teiko, and were basically just like, "Ooh, Hirota likes you," and yeah, she's just now like, "What?"
Well, spoilers. I don't think it's going to work out.
This is a thing in schools.
Oh, he's been caught. What the fuck is going on, Richie?
They're singing a song from a thing, which is just ridiculous. And all that poor kid just going, "Oh, I sort of have a crush on her, and now these people have completely embarrassed me because they've told her that, and oh my god." Kids when they're younger, getting involved in people's love lives when just no, stay out of that.
Yeah, I can ruin my own, love life, thank you very much.
Exactly. It's up to the people involved to say, yes, I like you, no, I do not like you, or, unfortunately, I am incredibly socially inept when it comes to love lives and relationships, and therefore I cannot say that I have feelings for you, or not have feelings for you, and I'm just going to clam up like a crazy person.
But Aquaman, you can't marry a woman without gills. You're from 2 separate worlds. This movie just kind of does what it wants, really, doesn't it?
Basically, yes. This is why I said that I do find it to be a rather boring film in the grand scheme of things. I would say that, obviously I'm rambling over it. I'm enjoying it more now than I did when I first watched it. I think because I'm not having to do that whole thought process of, I'm listening to this in Japanese, I've got to focus on the text and understand it.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, it's a very easy to follow film. We had a bit of a...
Oh, yeah.
A communication error in Nausicaa because we didn't understand, the blood of the bug stained the pink dress and turned it blue. But here, they're saying what you think they're saying. So even if we don't have English subtitles, it's fine because they're just fucking about in school.
But obviously in a film that's very slow and very much like life. It just sort of, yeah, having that language barrier can just make it seem slower.
Uh-huh.
And it's just one of those things, really.
It's not Rounders, I'll give them that.
I have to say, Rounders at school was always one of my favourite games to play during PE, because it just sort of, it was just always very silly.
Yeah, it's just fun.
Like, cricket's just a pain, because you actually have to know what you're doing. Football's a pain because, obviously, I am not a sporty person, and that's the one where the sportier people get really assholey and just dickish, and you're just like, but I don't want to kick the frickin' ball about. I'd rather just, go and read a book. That'll actually make my life a lot easier.
Oh, Richie.
Rugby's obviously even worse because you actually need physical contact in that.
I don't think we ever played that.
But Rounders was always a lot of fun because it was just a case of just whack the ball and run, and that was just funny and not that ridiculous, so you just had fun.
GG.
Competitiveness, just, yeah, good game. Very good game. This is the important stuff that this film is taking up its runtime with, complaining and moaning about who won and why they won and why they didn't win and so on and so forth, because, hey, that's life.
It's a biography. It's a biography. No, don't run till the void is not finished. I do all the background, so I'm not too fussed with the character models and whatnot. But man, I could, like, this looks like straight out of My Hero Academia a little bit.
I've not watched My Hero Academia, so I can't really comment, but yeah, why not?
You can be a Ghibli protagonist.
Now, I'm just trying to find, there's, because obviously you're talking about the, character models. And there's something that I saw, which I'm trying to find it and just going, I know I've seen it, because I was just reading about it, and now I can't find the freaking thing on the, Wikipedia page. Oh, there it is. So, the way the characters are animated in Only Yesterday are actually slightly more different, well, they're slightly different to regular Japanese character animation styles, because the characters have more realistic facial muscles and expressions, and that was because the dialogue was recorded first, which is very different for Japan, because normally they record the dialogue after the animation is completed, and so, because the dialogue was actually recorded first, they were able to fit the animation to the spoken dialogue, which is actually a much more Western way of doing animation. You look at Disney and Pixar, pretty much every time they do the voice work, then they do the animation, because they mimic the actors' faces when doing the animation. But that said, with the childhood past bit, this is more typical anime style, because this bit was animated before the voices were recorded, so they have that sort of duality to make the past and, well, so the 60s and the 80s seem very different, even more so when it comes to their style.
Happy ending? Question mark? Whoa! Oh my god, she's flying! Now she's swimming?
I don't know, she's in love.
Okay, it's one of those sequences.
Yeah. I told you we were going through that bit of Ghibli's history where it was just slightly on the kooky side.
Oh my god, that insane look in her eyes.
Yes, it's because she's in love.
Well, no, she's infatuated. She won't be in love until she knows the guy proper.
Well, that's true, and obviously it never happened.
Riveting dialogue. What's going on?
She's talking to herself in bed. That's what's going on.
She looks way older than 27, I have to say.
I know. I think what it is it's the extra facial muscles, but also I think it's sort of the forehead. There's quite a prominent forehead, which for some bizarre reason does just make her look older than 27.
Although, maybe that's what they were going for, who knows?
I think so. I mean, I think part of the idea is that she's very much a normal woman. Like, she's not overtly pretty, she's just very normal. And that goes through into her looks as well. And yeah.
It's weird, let's just leave it at that. Wait for it. Flashback is loading. Zooming in. Any minute now.
You know, it might just be a, oh no, now we in flashback mode. We were just fully loading and making it so that we can have a proper transition.
Oh god! No, I didn't sign up for this bullshit.
Yay, sex ed! Yeah, this is a particularly delightful section of the game where the girls talk about sex ed and so on and so forth.
Game, Richie?
Oh god, I don't know anymore. We're 30 minutes into this and we've got another hour and a half, and I've basically used up a lot of the material that I already had.
Well, look on the bright side. Next time we're covering Porco Rosso.
Yeah.
Well, I'll save my commentary.
I suppose more goes on in that film, so that's... I suppose more goes on in that film, so it's better in that respect. But then after that we've got Ocean Waves and Pompoko.
I'll tell you what, it's lovely and rainy right now. Let's just sit and watch.
Yes, I believe that is a good idea. We can just... Oh. God, we've got conversation about special underpants. It's been... Oh my god. Yeah. This is why when schools do sex ed, they should teach both sides so that both sides know what the other is experiencing.
Yeah, that's how it happened in our school.
It's pretty much what happened in ours as well, because it demystifies the whole thing.
Destigmatizes it as well.
Just means that it's just it's a normal thing. It is part of life. I mean, it is part of life, so it makes sense that boys should know how the female body works, and girls should know how the male body works, and therefore you're much more aware of what each other's going through. Although that said, stuff like this happens.
Boys will be boys, am I right?
Yeah, these boys are proper creepers. Ah.
Oh god, can a train just, like, explode? Like, not with her on it, just randomly. So we can have some visual stimulation, please.
No, it's not gonna happen. It's, basically this for the next hour and a half. So, yeah, knuckle down and we can enjoy ourselves. So, since we've got a bit of a time, might as well go into some of that voice actor trivia, just to fill up a bit of time. So obviously, adult Taiko is voiced by Daisy Ridley, as obviously I mentioned, which she's doing very well for herself because she's only 25 and she's obviously like the face of one of the biggest franchises of the world right now.
Oh yeah.
Before she got that, she had minor roles in TV series like Youngers, Toast of London, Silent Witness, Mr. Selfridge and Casualty, and appeared in short films and music videos before making her film debut in Scrawl, which is a 2015 independent horror film, and scenes in The Inbetweeners 2, which were ultimately removed from the final cut. And then she got the gig in Star Wars, and has basically then been on an upward trajectory ever since, because she got the gig doing Only Yesterday. She's in Murder on the Orient Express. She's also going to be in the Peter Rabbit film, which is coming out in 2018, which is slightly fascinating but also very worrying. What makes me more excited, however, is that she's going to be in the film adaptation of Chaos Walking, which is based on it's a novel series by Patrick Ness. And the film is going to be based on the first book, which is The Knife of Never Letting Go. Brilliant book, and it's got Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley in it as the main characters, and then also Mads Mikkelsen as the antagonist, and I'm really excited for that because loved that book, and I'm very excited to see it turned into a film. So she's doing very well for herself. We haven't met the character that will be voiced by Dev Patel, but I will talk about him when we eventually meet him.
Okay.
Young Taiko is voiced by Alison Fernandez, who, for some bizarre reason, doesn't have a Wikipedia page, which is really irritating. But yeah, I'm just going to try and see if I can find anything about her, but it could just be that she's okay. So Alison Fernandez is probably most well known for being in Once Upon a Time, I think like the most recent series, as Lucy. And then she's also Ava in Orange is the New Black, and Zara Amaro in Law & Order Special Victims Unit. So she's done quite well for herself, even though she's super young. With all of young Taiko's castmates, Tsuneko Tani, I don't know which one that is voiced by someone called Hope Levy. Aiko is voiced by Stephanie Shea, who's a very famous voice actress, being Orihime in Bleach, Hinata in Naruto, Eureka in Eureka 7, Mikuru Asahina in The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, and she also became the voice of Usagi Tsukino in the Viz Media English dub of Sailor Moon. So she's done so many voices throughout the years as Stephanie Shea. You also have Ava Akers as Toko. Don't know which one that was. Who will turn up once again in the Ghiblithon in When Marnie Was There, because she voices Sayaka there. But other than that, it's mostly been small roles, nothing too big. And then you got Rie, who's voiced by Madeline Rose Yen. No Wikipedia page. Suzuki, who's voiced by Jaden Betts. Once again, no Wikipedia page. And Hirota was voiced by Ginella Thielman, who also doesn't have a Wikipedia page. We have met Taiko's family in Tokyo. So her mother is voiced by Grey Griffin. Better known as Grey Delisle, perhaps.
Yeah.
Grey Delisle. Or, no, it is Grey Delisle.
Huh. I've just been saying it wrong all these years, then.
Yes, most well known for being Vicky in Fairly Odd Parents, Sam in Danny Phantom, Mandy in The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, and just so many other. She's also the current voice of Daphne in Scooby-Doo. She's so prolific, and also she's the voice of Jean in Bayonetta, and that is part of why I love her so much. I'm pretty sure she's also in The Wonderful 101, because obviously they, like, Platinum Games really do love her. And no, I can't see Wonderful 101 in here, but then that could be wrong in that one. Then you've got Taiko's father, who is voiced by Matt Yang King, who doesn't have a Wikipedia page. You've got Nanako Okajima, which is one of her sisters, is voiced by Laura Bailey, who's obviously another very, very famous voice actress, having voiced Kid Trunks and Kid Dende in the Funimation dub of Dragon Ball.
Nice.
She's Chun-Li in the newer Street Fighter series, Risei Kujikawa in Persona 4, Lucina in Fire Emblem Awakening, Sarah in the Final Fantasy XIII series, Chun-Li in newer Street Fighter games. She's actually the voice of Nadine Ross in Uncharted 4 at Thief's End and Uncharted Lost Legacy, and then she's just done so many other voices. Also, I think she's the voice of Oma Chow at the minute as well.
Oh, wow. You have to have down points sometimes, I guess.
She's also done the voice of Blaze as well, so it swings in roundabouts. Yaiko is voiced by Ashley Eckstein, most well known for being the voice of Ahsoka Tano in Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, so that's two Star Wars people in Daisy Ridley and Ashley Eckstein teaming up. But those are pretty much her biggest roles, I think. Outside of perhaps being Mia the Bluebird in the Sophia the First series. And yeah, that's about your lot. She's also in Blue Collar TV as a series regular. That's that. And then Taiko's grandmother is voiced by the amazing Mona Marshall, who is obviously Inari in the Naruto series. She is the voice of Izzy in the Digimon series.
Yes!
Just generally awesome. She's also the voice of Beat in Eternal Sonata, which at the time of recording this commentary I am still doing a playthrough of on my channel.
Plug, plug, plug.
Plug, 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 plug. So yeah, Mona Marshall is pretty awesome, and she's got a very distinctive voice, and she's awesome. And now I believe that we have met Toshio, who is Dev Patel's character.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Obviously, Dev Patel's done phenomenally well for himself as well. Started as Anwar Corral in the first two seasons of Skins, and then Probably his most famous role would be as Jamal Malik in Slumdog Millionaire. And then he's gone on to be in The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, The Last Airbender.
Yeah. You know what's weird about The Last Airbender is the firebenders are Indian in that one, when they were originally meant to be like Asian, Chinese, and whatnot. I don't really understand the need for a race change, but then again, the Inuits became white, so, you know.
Exactly. So Dev Patel's a pretty excellent actor. And, well, he hasn't actually been in that many films. He's generally always done very well in all of them, and I think been nominated for many awards throughout his career. Mostly for Slumdog Millionaire, but still does pretty damn well. And that basically covers all of the characters so far. We've just got to wait until we meet Taiko's relatives at the farm in Yamagata. But we haven't got there yet, but we've got another 2 very famous voice actresses there.
Nice, nice.
There is someone else who I think is relatively prolific, but she certainly doesn't have the same level of fame as the other 2.
It's really odd to hear an English voice actor in an American dub, especially like Ghibli and whatnot. I don't know. Maybe it's just a stark contrast.
Probably what makes it weird is that obviously this is Japan, but we've got American voices and now we've got an English voice. I think this is something that I would probably say is a little bit of a not the best of ideas when localizing, because obviously the point that is meant to be made is, yes, they are very different because Taiko is very much a city girl and Toshio is very much a country guy. And American voice and British voice don't really create that as a dynamic. You'd be more likely, well, in pretty much any other film or game or whatever, you'd have different American accents to make that distinction. Basically, if you look at the Ace Attorney games, if you look at how Nick speaks and then how Lotta Hart speaks, and basically that would be the distinction that you would probably get.
Kind of a piss-poor comparison when they basically Americanized Japan, Richard.
Yes, but if you're gonna localize it and Americanize it, basically that's the type of dynamic, because that's the dynamic that they would have gone for in Japan. Because I think, particularly with Lotta, I think it's an Osaka dialect that they use for her, to get across the point that she's not as cultured or what have you. I think is the idea. I might be slightly wrong in saying Osaka, but I think it is that. So you have that distinction in accent. I mean, it's like if you were in the UK, Taiko would probably speak with a London accent, whereas Toshio would probably be like a proper Somerset accent. That's the type of dynamic that you'd expect.
Gotta say, this is the longest driving sequence I've seen where the point of the movie was not to be on the road for the whole of it.
Yeah, but as I said, it's a film that really just goes at its own pace. I mean, it's probably not the longest car journey that has ever been put to film, but it certainly can feel like it might be one of them.
Jeez. I don't even get a cup of tea before you get on with work, like ploughing the paddy fields and whatnot.
No, she's doing this because she wants to, so she's made that decision for herself.
Fair dues, I suppose. It's a really good-looking film. I don't know if that's coming across in the amount of times that I say it, or that I might seem bored, but visually, it's interesting, it's engrossing, it's just the script and the story are not doing it for me so far. I don't foresee this getting a very high grade.
Yeah, as I said, like, visually, it is gorgeous. I mean, you've got cinematography by Hisao Shiraishi, and I mean, you've got music by Katz Hoshi, and yeah, it looks great, and it's sounding great. I'm quite liking this dub, to be fair, apart from, American and British voices do not necessarily signify different parts of the same country, but as a story, for me, and clearly for you, Tom, as well, it's just a bit too slow, it's just a bit too simple, and it just doesn't make for the most engaging of stories, in my opinion.
Like, I get what they were going for. Like, I like the whole past and present angle. It's just... I don't know, maybe I was expecting something a bit more exciting to happen in her youth, unless like a major tragedy occurs within the next half an hour. This ain't rising above a sea, I don't think.
So we will, I think, get more glimpses at Taiko's childhood, because basically she... So the whole point of the film's title, or at least its Japanese title, which is Omoide Poro Poro, Memories Come Tumbling Down, is the idea that as Taiko goes on this journey, her memories trickle down and come back to her. And so she finds herself increasingly nostalgic and wistful for her childhood self. So it dredges up forgotten memories. The Wikipedia plot summary does say not all of them good ones, so we will see more stuff occur as we go along, but yeah, it's just that little bit slow in getting to the point with things.
Oh, it's wacky.
So, since we're here, I might as well go over Taiko's farm relatives. Thankfully, there's not many of them, so we can quite nicely say who's who. So you've got Kazuo, who I think is sort of like an uncle or whatever, is voiced by Matt Yanking, the same gentleman who voices her father. You've got Kyoko, who is voiced by Sumali Montano, who... it has been in various things, none that I would say are hugely recognisable. I mean, she's Pudding in Space Channel 5, she's Mystique in X-Men Destiny, she voices Erica Connors in Mirror's Edge Catalyst.
Meh.
Yeah...
No, I say meh because I don't like... just the concept of Mirror's Edge Catalyst. I wanted a sequel. They did not give me a sequel. And now that series is probably fucking shit can. Get off my screen, Ant, I crush you! Sorry, slight tangent there.
So yeah. She hasn't been in many things that people would probably recognise. But Naoko is voiced by Tara Strong, who's obviously just one of those most ludicrously prolific people who has been in, like, frickin' everything.
I mean, she's good, don't get me wrong, but I think oversaturation is a valid term nowadays. Also, what is with this borderline religious chanting for this farm scene?
It's just one of those things. Last but not least, we have Granny, who is voiced by Nika Futterman, who, as a name, you may not... You probably recognise it as a name, but not necessarily who she voices. I'm trying to find the ones which are probably the more recognisable roles. I mean, the reason that it excites me is because in Kid Icarus Uprising, she's the voice of Pandora.
Oh, okay.
She's also the voice of Jessica Hall / the Queen in the StarCraft series. Oh, she is the voice of Styx the Badger in the Sonic the Hedgehog series.
Oh, okay.
She's also Undine and Eutis in Tales of Symphonia. Tom, you would have also come across her in The Matrix Path of Neo as Switch and the Witch Boss. She's also been in Psychonauts, various other things as well. But yeah, that Kid Icarus Uprising link is why I most recognise the name. And she's just pretty awesome as well. Oh, she's also the voice of... I was about to say something that would sound good, but then it kind of stopped being as good because I don't think... I think I got slightly confused as to who was who, so it doesn't matter on that one.
Okay, riveting and on-point commentary, Richard.
Of course, we're an hour into this, and we've got an hour to go, so... I'm just kind of doing my best, really.
Fair dues, mate, fair dues. I wouldn't mind watching a Harvest Moon film for a couple of hours.
Harvest Moon film for 90 minutes, at most.
Okay, we'll meet in the middle there.
A 2-hour Harvest Moon film might begin to suffer from very similar issues to what Only Yesterday suffers from, of just being slightly too slow-paced for what it's doing.
I'm surprised we haven't gone back to a flashback yet. Like, we're having them like on and off and on and off, and he did say they're gonna keep coming, and they won't stop coming. But I just expected more, I guess.
Yeah, I think they do come back, but this adult narrative is basically what the main point of the film is, in a way. Because it's the framing narrative, it's the thing that is making sense of the original manga, in a way. To be honest, I think that they probably could have cut down the length of the film overall by not having quite so much of this. Probably would have helped. But then I know that the whole idea is it's to have that more realistic frame of looking at things. And to be fair, life does move at this sort of pace.
Well, sometimes, especially if you're out
on a day-to-day basis, anyway.
If you're out in the country, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh. It's coming. Wouldn't that be fucking scary if you suddenly started to remember a lost memory and you turned around and in the other room you saw your young self and your family from that point in time?
Yeah, that would be quite a thing. But yeah, that's just one of those things, really, isn't it?
Were you ever a fussy eater as a child, Richie?
Were a fussy eater. I am a fussy eater.
Well, I meant specifically as a child.
Well, I was and still am, so yeah. I mean, I've gotten a lot better than I used to be, because for a long time, I didn't like pasta. Just didn't like it.
Wow. Who doesn't like pasta, you freak?
I know. So yeah, that was... Thankfully, I managed to get past that, and now I absolutely love pasta, but I hate lasagna.
You managed to get past it,
Because for
is
some
what you're trying
reason,
to say.
pasta in lasagna is very weird, but pretty much every other type of pasta, I'm okay with. Still don't like rice.
Okay.
Like, just the texture of it, just ugh. And then, like, can't do spicy food, don't do most seafood, don't do... what else? There's loads of foods that I don't eat. So it does make meals an absolute nightmare. But there we go. You don't like something, you're not going to eat it, are you? Are you a particularly fussy eater, Tom, or at least were you?
Yes. A little bit. It's mostly the texture of stuff that I find off-putting, like chilies, etc.
Yeah.
Like that gelatinous crunch.
Ugh, yeah, no. Texture is pretty much a killer for me, to be fair, with a lot of stuff. Taste also comes into it, but a lot of, texture just makes things really weird.
Okay. That's the conceit of this part of the movie. They're going out for Chinese! I think that may have came out much more angrily than I meant it to.
It's because you're beginning to see why I look on Only Yesterday as I do. I mean, you've already begun to see it. You are fully seeing it now because we're in the middle of the frickin' film. And pretty much nothing has happened. And that can be perfectly okay for a film. Obviously, when the critics saw this, they loved it. I mean, so one of the quotes about the film is... So Nicholas Rappold of the New York Times said, Mr. Takahata's psychologically acute film, which was based on a manga, seems to grow in impact too, as the adult Taiko comes to a rich understanding of what she wants and how she wants to live. And then you've got Glenn Kenny of RogerEbert.com saying, like Kaguya, it functions as a highly sensitive and empathetic consideration of the situation of women in Japanese society, but it's also a breathtaking work of art on its own. You also have Kai Kyaku of the Nihon Review stating this film knows what it strives to be and executes it well. Though it won't be for everyone, it represents the quality and artistry that Studio Ghibli is known for.
Exactly, and that's the thing. What it does, it's doing well. It's... Again,
yes.
We grade these not on objective filmmaking quality, but on our own personal enjoyment. And for me, and only me, because I only really care about my opinion, which might sound like a bad thing, but it also means I'm not going to come to you and say, hey, stop liking this, or start liking this. You know? I mind my affairs, and my affairs in regards to Only Yesterday is, I wish it was only tomorrow, and we were watching Porco Rosso.
Yeah, to be fair, at this point, I too would be wanting to watch Porco Rosso.
Oh. No shoes? Ow. What the fuck?
Her dad's a little bit of a dick. But something that's actually important to note is that, I mean, so there's a website called Nausicaa.net, which I think goes into gives certain details about certain elements of the films. And one of the questions that comes up as a frequently asked question with regards to Only Yesterday is, was Taiko's father abusive? And the answer to that is, though he looks cold, and some viewers are shocked by his slapping of Taiko, he's just a typical Japanese father of the 60s. He's not an ideal father, he's a realistic one.
Yeah, I got that immediately. Like, he just seemed stoic more than anything else.
Yeah. And because obviously the manga is semi-autobiographical, the author seems to have come to terms with what happened, and though she doesn't totally agree with her parents, she doesn't see it as abuse, she just sees it as him being a typical Japanese father of the 60s. And that just makes sense. I mean, it also brings up the whole thing about the pineapple. Because obviously, you brought it up where it was just like, why is it such a big deal to eat a pineapple? And it's because, in 1966, imported fruit was still rare and expensive,
right,
because it was during the $1 to the 360 yen era. So the pineapples that Japanese people had eaten were usually canned, and most of the Japanese people had never seen a real one. So obviously it was a big deal to have a pineapple.
Yes! Yes! Ice cream for all! Although I have eaten today and I'm trying to lose weight. Especially with Halloween just around the corner. Oops, dated the movie. What's with this fucking E.T. reference?
Well, there's a lot of references throughout the film. Some that you will have already noticed, others that you will not have necessarily noticed. And basically it's because, obviously, it takes place in the 60s and the 80s, and because it's very much based on real life, it's properly playing on referencing elements of those eras.
Okay.
And the things that were actually important at those points in time to Taiko. But also, I mean, there's a repetitive Eastern European theme throughout the film, particularly in the soundtrack, which reflects the pleasant lifestyle still present in the area and parallels this with Japanese rural life.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can hear folk songs from the area repeatedly throughout the film. So you have a Romanian folk song called Fluttering Green Leaves Wedding Song. I'm not going to try and pronounce it in Romanian. Which is written by George Zamfir, and that occurs in the film repeatedly during the landscape shots. For example, when Taiko arrives at the farm. And instruments used include the prominent nai, which is played by Zamfir himself, the cimbalom, and violins. There's also Hungarian music in the film, using pieces of music such as Brahms' Hungarian Dance No. 5, in a scene where Taiko is eating lunch, and making references to Hungarian musicians when she's in the car with Toshio. So she mentions Teremtes, performed by Sebastian Mata and Musicas. And that is an adaptation from a Hungarian traditional folk song. And you can also hear the music of Marta Sebastian with Musicas in several scenes as well. There's also Bulgarian folklore music in the soundtrack, particularly when Taiko is on the field. One can first hear Dilmano Dilbero, followed by Molka Moma Vorimete, and these are typical Bulgarian folklore songs, and the lyrics are both are connected to topics mentioned in the film, i.e. the life of farmers and marriage. So, yes.
Thank you for the trivia and one that you've been delivering throughout the commentary so far, mate. I don't feel I'm equipped to handle a commentary of this kind, but thankfully I always have you watching my back. So that's a constant whatchamacallit in my life. A lifeline. There we go.
Well, basically, it's my commentary job to be the trivia person.
Well, it's appreciated anyway.
I mean, the thing is that it's in moments like this film where you kind of just go, what am I going to talk about? Because hardly anything happens in the film. It's a very slow film. It's very based in reality, so there's nothing exciting going on in terms of the visuals. The odd bit, but nothing hugely. So you kind of go, well, I can't talk about that really because I'm going to run out in about 5 seconds. That's going to run out in about 5 seconds. That's going to run out in about 5 seconds. And so you kind of go, well, the only thing left is trivia.
Is this our most introspective, real, raw commentary yet? Delving into our strengths and weaknesses? Maybe.
Maybe, but only because it's basically where the film is forcing us to go, because it's giving us frickin' nothing to go on.
The true strengths of Studio Ghibli, making people face themselves. She's good at maths, at least.
Well, relatively good at maths, yes.
Better than me, is what I'm trying to say. That's the metric on which I judge other people's math skills.
I have to say, like, I used to be relatively good at maths. I mean, I managed to get an A star in A-level maths, so I must have been at least halfway decent, but nowadays, yeah, no, 3 years of an English degree completely destroyed any math skills I had.
Oh, she was bad, but I saw ticks, and ticks to me means good job.
Yeah, I don't know anymore. Oh.
Yep, that's something that can scar a child for life.
Thankfully, at least in my case, I was never a normal kid, so if anybody said that, it's like, well, yeah, no.
Yeah, normal's boring.
Exactly. Like, who'd want to be normal?
What was your hardest times table to learn? Because I think for me, the 8 times table was always the trickiest.
Honestly, I don't remember. And the reason I say I don't know is because, like, to be fair, if you ask me to do my times tables now, I'd probably reach a certain point and just go, I'll be going a lot slower than I would have done when I was a child, because you don't use it for a while, then all of a sudden you're just like, also doesn't help because I did A-level maths, constantly using a calculator, so that basically scuppered any mental math skills that I had. But I have to say, this is quite fun, because this is obviously the way someone's mind works.
Yeah.
Because when I was at school, there were a couple of people who did really struggle with maths, even in the top set class. And sometimes it's just because your brain isn't hardwired to think in that manner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sometimes the things just don't make sense.
Okay, so she's terrible at maths. Again, the ticks really threw me off.
I know, evidently they're crossing through going wrong.
Disgusting.
But they look very much like ticks.
Math crime.
I suppose we probably should have been able to tell because it was in red marker and it wasn't in green marker.
Yeah, but that doesn't really mean anything, because, you know, crosses are used to denote... Although maybe this is a Western versus an Eastern thing, I don't know.
It might very well be. You see, this is one of the bits where it's just like, for God's sake, would like to know a little bit more about elements of Japanese schooling to be able to properly commentate on this film and say, yes, this makes sense in our heads.
Well, I imagine she's going to have a genius or eureka moment at one point. It's like, oh, I can split an atom!
I don't know. I mean, to be fair, multiplying and dividing fractions is a confusing thing to be doing.
Man, just getting out of bed in the morning is confusing for me.
That is true. That is the curse of depression. Also the curse of laziness, but I certainly know in my life I may or may not use the excuse of being depressed, but no, it's sort of basically is because it just makes it so much harder to get on top of everything.
Well, when you're already lazy, sometimes the two intertwine, so just go with it.
Yeah.
Well, you had a whole portion of the movie devoted to it.
So yeah, it definitely was a big deal. It clearly scarred her for life.
Do you know what you want from
Do you
life,
know what you
Rich?
want from life?
Oh my god! Beautiful, beautiful.
Same question, exactly the same time.
If that doesn't sum up our relationship, I don't know what will. I'll go first. I want to be happy, I want to be healthy, and eventually independent. That's all I can ask. It doesn't matter what job, doesn't matter what I do for a living, I just want to be.
Yeah, I think that is ultimately my goal in life, is just to be happy. And where that is, what that is, however, what form it takes, if I'm happy, then life is good. I mean, obviously, the dream would be my book becomes a success and I can focus on that and meet the love of my life,
Aww.
Get married, have kids, etc., etc. But I'm quite happy to take whatever road life will take me down, as long as I end up happy. Otherwise, I'm just going to go, there you go, life, there's the middle finger, you can sod off, I'm just going to do my own thing.
No regrets, just keep moving forward.
Exactly. Keep moving forward, as the wonderful Walt Disney once said, once you kind of, took words out of a sentence and put it in the credits.
Once you horrifically misquoted Walt Disney and essentially, spat on his legacy, then you got a wonderful moral.
So yeah, guys, you ready for another 40 minutes of this? Oh, now we're getting to learn about farming. Yay!
Seriously though, Harvest Moon film. Actually, what is the most recent Harvest Moon game, Richie? Can you look that up for me, please?
Well, if I recall correctly, the series has sort of... Has it stopped being Harvest Moon now, or is it shift? Yeah, so... it's now become the Story of Seasons franchise, which obviously was Harvest Moon from 1996 to 2013, but in 2014 it became Story of Seasons. Latest release being Story of Seasons Trio of Towns, which came out... Bloody hell. So it came out in America, it came out in Japan, June last year.
Okay.
As of when we're recording this commentary. It came out in America in February of this year, 2017. It came out in Europe, or apparently came out in Europe, this month.
Holy shit.
When we are recording this commentary, so October 2017. I don't know whether it's definitely out, because the Wikipedia page says it's due out in October 2017, and the date on the thing is October the 13th. But yeah, so very recent in the West when the most recent game in that series came out. But I love how long the Japanese title is for Story of Seasons Trio of Towns. Because it's Bokujo Monogatari Mitsu no Sato no Taisetsu na Tomodachi, which is ranch story, good friends of three villages.
Mm-hmm. Well, Harvest Moon usually has long titles and whatnot. Although I think Stardew Valley has started to take its lunch, as it were, as a new farming simulator game.
Yeah. Now we get our explanation of organic farming. Yay!
There's a certain appeal to stuff like this. It's almost like we're watching a documentary.
It is also almost like we're watching a documentary, but I wouldn't choose to do a commentary over a documentary about organic farming.
Also, if you want to watch like a documentary with commentary, just watch something by like David Attenborough.
Oh god, yes. David Attenborough is a national treasure.
Boo! Sorry, try to inject some life into the commentary though. Oh, look at that. Wonderful yellows and greens and reds and oranges. Again, very pretty film. End of.
Yeah. It's beautiful, but just a bit boring. Also, I have to say, that t-shirt with those roll-up sleeves was absolutely ridiculous.
I was gonna say the exact same thing. Like, look at Mr. Tough Guy over here, giving it all this in the spring breeze.
I suppose 80s fashion was weird even in Japan.
That is funny. Okay. I'm as confused as the characters. Oh, okay. Now it makes sense. Reggie called the cops.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, that makes more sense now. It's just like that moment where you just go, what the frick are you on? Like, there go the crows? What? I have to say, I think back to the school plays that we did when I was younger, and it's just like, oh god.
I think I'm getting nostalgic flashbacks now because I think there was one like on The Boy Who Cried Wolf, and I can't remember the full line, but my character had to say, "Tobias, are you sure there was a wolf?" And it was delivered a lot less convincingly than that. Let me tell you what.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the whole thing with school plays. Like, none of the kids are actually actors, and so they're generally pretty forced. I remember, like, I had major stage fright as a child. So, I mean, there was one when I was at infant school where I think I kind of hid in the background and kind of ran out crying because I didn't want to do it.
Oh.
And then when I was in year 7, we were going to do the nativity, and I got the part of Joseph, and I couldn't rehearse at home. I was just too petrified of doing it, which is like weird as all hell as to why I would be terrified to rehearse at home.
Although it was later revealed that Richie lives in the Globe Theatre, so it all makes sense.
But yeah, it just sort of... Yeah, so I ended up having to drop out of that one, and I became like a narrator because I didn't have to... Well, no. I think I actually became the narrator in that... One of the narrators in that one because I didn't have to do as much. And I didn't have to remember any lines, and it just sort of made me a lot more comfortable. And that basically continued throughout, because in year 5 we did an assembly on the Greeks, and I was starting to go through a bit of a rough time, but nothing major, and I got given the part of Hades, and obviously me, little bright-eyed child, was just like, but I don't want to be the bad guy, because obviously I'd only really seen Disney's Hercules, and that was my view of Greek myth, and I didn't want to be the bad guy, because no, that's not me. And I know that my teacher I think she had a massive go at me, because she was like, what is wrong with you? I don't want to do it. And then, yes, that was fun. And then in year 6, for our Leavers play, we did this absolutely bizarre production, which was sort of like a look back at classic eras of music. It was like a family sitting around a table talking about music. It was weird. And I played the granddad in that for some bizarre reason. And also quite funny because I ended up having to just randomly burst into singing "Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away" from the Beatles, because I was the only person who actually knew what that song was. Which was bizarre. So yes, that's memory of that. Didn't do any theatre then until Bugsy Malone at my senior school. That was slightly awful, because that was when I was actually going through bullying and people were taking the piss out of me because I was in it. That wasn't pleasant. And then never did any theatre until I got to uni, and then I did my my Cinderella in my last year there, and that was kind of my first major performance doing theatre. And now I've kind of got the bug, but there's not really the opportunity to necessarily do it as much anymore, which is a pain.
Yeah.
But I've gone from being terrified child with stage fright to actually enjoying myself on the stage, which is quite nice that that's changed. Yeah, I was a theatrical child, but didn't actually like the theatre or being on the stage because it terrified me.
Fair enough, mate. Nice to see these two getting on, especially after this spat early.
Oh, definitely.
Bit of a backhanded compliment, saying something like that.
Yeah, it's just like, you can only get away with that in your family, but even then that's just like a... Hey, bitch, shut up. That's not pleasant, thank you very much. I like how we've both just gone silence, and then we're just like...
I didn't want to incur Dad's wrath, okay?
Yeah, he's got that look about him, doesn't he? It's just like this deathly seriousness. It's just like... What did you want to be when you grew up, Tom, when you were a kid?
Video game designer.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I think I went through a few phases, because initially I wanted to be a pop star, because yeah, that's the thing. Then for a bit I wanted to be a writer.
Same.
Then
journalist.
I wanted to be obviously fiction writer. Then I don't know why I sort of fell out of love with that idea, and I sort of erred more towards video game designer, working on video games. And then I sort of didn't know what I wanted to do for a while, and then obviously I've kind of come back to the dream of being a writer and an author, and that's ultimately where I want to be. But obviously getting there is a completely different kettle of fish.
Mm-hmm.
So, this puppet show here is actually a puppet show in real life. So it's called Hyokori Hyotanjima, which is popped up Gourd Island, and it was an immensely popular children's show at that time. Yes, it aired every weekday on NHK from 1964 to 1969. And what's quite cool is that several characters that appeared in the film were amazingly realistic. Like this looks, I think, almost identical to what the actual puppet looked like.
Huh.
And also the theme song of the show was very popular. And we're actually gonna... I don't know whether we have seen it or we're going to see it. But to get over her disappointment, she sings the song with the refrain, "We don't want to cry, so let's laugh. Go ahead." It's quite a cute little message. And actually, Nausicaa.net is actually a very useful thing, because they've actually got the entire script of Only Yesterday, or at least what they've translated. And it's actually got cultural notes as you go through it, which I wish I'd known this was a thing earlier. This would have been very helpful. I could have just followed the script along. But it's fine, we've only got like half an hour left, so... We made it this far without the damn thing, I'm sure we can make it to the end.
It's one of our 7 deadly trials, mate. We'll do it. We'll do it.
Exactly.
I was going for Hercules trials, but I forgot the number of them. I think it was like 9 or something.
Hercules' labours.
There you go. Trials, labours, same thing.
So, there are 12 labours, I think.
Well,
yes.
I did discuss earlier, maths is not my strong point, so...
Because, yeah, you have the Nemean lion, the Lernaean hydra, the hind of Serinia, the Erymanthian boar, the Augean stables, the Stymphalian birds, the Cretan bull, the horses of Diomedes, the belt of Hippolyte, Gerion's cattle, the apples of the Hesperides, and Cerberus.
There you go. Oh, she's singing the song.
She's singing the song.
Her mother's a tough one. She won't crack just because of some television ditty.
I have to say, I don't think I'd ever randomly burst into song in public unless I was part of a flash mob. Like, no, that's not a thing. That's not normal. That said, I will randomly burst into song in my own house. So that's just because I'm just like, I'm in my own space, here, like just boogieing along to nothing in particular, and then just all of a sudden just want to burst into song. It's just what I do, because I'm a very musical person.
Well, to be fair, we did establish
not
you live in the globe, so that makes sense.
Part of me wishes I lived in the globe, but then part of me also wishes I... Well, it's obviously not the case, but wishes it wouldn't be the case either, because I wouldn't want to live in a place that's got an open top, because... Well, I really do. I need to go to the Globe at some point because I haven't seen a show there yet, and I need to.
Okay.
And I'm definitely going to be a groundling because that's the best way to experience the Globe. Apart from the fact that standing up for like 3 hours, that'll be a pain.
Well, I'm sorry, Richie, but Shakespeare did not write his plays with you in mind, you entitled shit.
Well, I mean, I could sit down. Because I could get one of the actual seats, the bench seats, but the whole point of the Globe is you become part of the groundlings because then you get the proper experience of the Globe because you're right up close to all of the actors, and I love the idea of that, and I really do want to go see a show there at some point. I'm just waiting for the right production to come along that me and my dad are just like, yes, and then we go. Oh yeah, so Machine Gun Dandy, that we just saw there for a brief second, is designed to look sort of like Daisuke Jigen of Lupin the Third fame.
Oh.
Which obviously makes sense because, before Ghibli became a thing, Miyazaki was involved in the Castle of Cagliostro, which is... has been released as sort of... It's not part of the Ghibli collection, but it's released in the same sort of colour palette and sort of with them, but not with them.
That's why we're not covering it, so...
Yes, and that was obviously directed by Hayao Miyazaki. So obviously, Ghibli, Miyazaki, it makes sense that there's a slight reference in there. But I will say, because obviously we're getting to Ocean Waves eventually. So Ocean Waves is part of the Ghibli collection that I've got. So that's why we're doing it in the commentary. But I don't know whether it is part of the Ghibli collection in America, but it's part of my Ghibli collection, so we're doing it.
Nicely put, mate.
It was a very backwards way of saying it, but got there in the end.
I could. Pretty nice. Just visually, waking up to all that green.
Yeah, I could never live in the country. I'm too much of a city person. I'm pretty... where I am right now, I'm pretty happy. Nottingham is the right size city for me.
Yeah.
It's not too big, it's not too small, it's got everything I could possibly want there. And in terms of getting to other places in the country, it's perfect. So, I can never live in the country, but I can never live in a city that's any bigger than Nottingham.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're right, but, she does like it here, she does sort of like Toshio, so... yeah, it's probably likely to be a thing, but, I mean, they're totally right for saying we don't want to push that on her because that's not our place, and that's quite nice of them, to be fair.
Yeah, they could have discussed this elsewhere, though.
They could have done, yes. I think it's making all of us feel awkward, to be fair, because, like, 20 minutes left and we're sort of getting a bit of conflict.
There we go, there you go.
She probably needs to, get a grip on what she thinks, because, I mean, no, that's the whole point of her coming out here, but she needs to just have a little bit of a think about what she thinks and where she wants to be.
Yeah. A few more flashbacks, that'll do it.
Yeah, I can't remember how many more flashbacks we get, but since we know we're heading into the final stretch, I feel I should probably bring up the last bit of trivia that I actually have.
Okay.
And that's obviously that the story takes place within the Takase district of Yamagata City, Yamagata Prefecture, and features many, like, real-life locations. So you have the Takase Station and Yamadera Station of the JNR, which is currently the JR East Senzan line, though it has since been rebuilt from when this film was created, but the scenery remains mostly unchanged. And also, during the course of the film, the characters visit prominent locales, including the resort destination of Mount Zhao. So obviously this is sort of, in a way, a nice way of showing off Yamagata to people to try and get them to visit if they wanted to use it in that sense. But to be fair, most regular viewers of this film, I think I would probably place Only Yesterday as a film that is best watched by people who really like film. Because you're much more, when you really like film, you're much more willing to sit and watch something that goes at its own pace.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the regular movie goer, sort of, they don't have the best of attention spans, so they might struggle to get through Only Yesterday.
What are you trying to say about me, Rich? Mm.
Well, to be fair, I sort of am falling into the category as well for Only Yesterday. I'm quite happy to sit through films that go at their own pace. Like, really happy to. Because, like, I absolutely love 5 centimeters per second. Love that film, but that goes at a frickin' snail's pace. So it depends on the film for me, because certain films that I've done, I love them, even though they go at a slow pace. Others, they go far too slow for me. Like, it's slightly sacrilegious to say, but I'm really not a fan of Pulp Fiction.
Okay.
Because while I appreciate the cinematic qualities of the film, and some of the decisions made and the shots used, I find it to be far too slow and a bit dull and far too long, and so just like, it's not a film that I would choose to watch a second time. So it's just one of those things where certain films, yeah, great, I can live with this slowness. I mean, like, The Tale of Princess Kaguya is quite a slow-moving film, but I'm so willing to sit through it because of the way that it tells its story and the characters and all of that. So, yeah, it varies, and I've kind of rambled very far off the point that I was probably initially making, but it's gotten us to Taiko and Toshio sitting in a car together like they were at the start of the film and sort of talking through their feelings, so it did its job.
I think this is a film that I'd appreciate better on my second watch through. Like, I'd be on my own, I'd be in the right mood for something slow, but as, like, just a general, like, viewing of the film, I feel it could have been edited to be at least half an hour shorter, I think. I get that it was trying to reflect, the mundanity of life, for lack of a better descriptive, but it lingers far too long and such, and gives importance to shots that just didn't really need to be there. And I get that's the point of the film, but for me, I feel it could have been much more snappily edited.
I definitely agree with that assessment. It's just one of those things where you're just like, I want to like you. There is a lot to like here, from the visuals, to the music, to the performances, to the fact that it is a very psychologically acute film, to Nicholas Rappol's terminology. But I think that it could have done exactly the same thing in a much shorter runtime, and just trimming some of the fat would have just made it that much more bearable in my eyes, because we've still got like another 15 minutes to go. I don't know, I keep counting down, but it kind of just shows you that sort of really it feels like the film should have wrapped up already and we should be done and gone home, but it's still going.
Owned. Pure and simple. Like, if this was a friend of mine, and something from their childhood that was like, just routine and ordinary was giving them this much trouble, I'd worry if it was systematic or whatever, or addictive, I should say, of something bigger. Because this is too ordinary to be dwelling on like this, I think.
Yeah, and, I mean, I think the word you were looking for was indicative of something more. But yeah, I'd be slightly concerned as well, because, some of this is just like, that's a pretty normal bit of most people's childhoods. Obviously, everyone reacts differently to things, everyone has different reactions to events in their life, and it can lead to very different outcomes. But yeah, as Toshio says, she's acting strange and it's just a bit weird. And you can be very introspective, but you know, there comes a point where it's just like, come on, Doc, just get over it. I say that obviously with, if something was in fact a mental illness, then obviously just get over it is not a the correct response to that. It's no, we need to get you the help to be able to get through this. But obviously, what Only Yesterday seems to present is just, she's just going through a very introspective journey that is just her being introspective and not actually anything to do with any sort of mental health issue, and therefore it's just like, Doc, just move on now, please.
I mean, there's introspection, then there's navel gazing, and I've never been a fan of the second one in terms of writing, because it's just meandering, it's pointless, and overall, if there's no point to you reminiscing, then what is the point?
Exactly. So I suppose we're now going on the whole thing of when you're kids, people act like a dick to the people they fancy.
Yep.
Which is, not something that I've ever seen to be a positive thing. I'm pretty sure that when I was in infant school, there was a girl who picked on me, and I think it was because she liked me, but it was just like, that's not going to make me like you, therefore, why are you doing that? Because that's ridiculous. And that's pretty much what I've always thought with people. It's just like, don't be a dick. That's not going to make anybody like you. It's just going to make people look at you and just go, What have I done to piss them off?
Well, to be fair, Rich, you're a pretty handsome lad nowadays, so you must have been cute as a button back then. I can see why someone would fall for you.
Well, you say that. I mean, I have always been cute. I still argue that I am cute because that seems to be the that seems to be the reigning description that applies to me. Not done me very good stead in present day life.
Cute can't pay bills.
Yeah, cute don't get girlfriends. But hey, that's life.
Did you? I didn't really get that.
I don't know anymore. Oh, pathetic fallacy. It was raining when she was miserable and now it's sunny because she's gotten through her feelings. Perfect.
Even Ghibli cannot help but fall prey to such tropes and cliches.
I mean, I'm fine with pathetic fallacy. I love it. It's brilliant, but to be fair, I thought I would perhaps appreciate only yesterday a little bit more on this watch through. And perhaps I do a little bit. It's certainly gone a little bit further up in my estimations.
Yeah.
But not by much. It's still a very boring film, in my view, and that's a shame.
I mean, as we watched, Taiko, adult-wise, she was great as a kid, but as an adult, she's kind of started to annoy me more and more. Like, her face annoyed me, and just her mannerisms.
I totally get that. It's so annoying because, as I said, there's stuff that I want to like, and just the pace of the film and everything, that certain elements that go on it, and just like, Although that said, this is quite pretty.
Fireflies. Oh, but it's probably just reflections or sparkly lights coming off the car lights.
It would probably have been the water droplets sparkling as the car drove past.
Well, there's that too, Richie, Mr. I Know Science.
It's more I was paying attention to the fact that it had just been raining.
Shut up! You're making me look bad in front of the audience. I see, this is good stuff. The relationship between these two characters. I could have used more of that, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that they could have done to just shift the focus of things, tighten it up. It would have made a very... It would have made an excellent film, I think. But as it stands, there's just a lot of fat around it. That's just very slow, very pointless fat that doesn't serve any purpose other than to just be introspective and sort of going into the psychology of Taiko, and it's just like, no. It's called Love, Duck. It's just like, come on, we've got 7 minutes to go, just wrap it up.
Like, it goes into a flashback, and then young Taiko, starts figuring out love and whatnot, and then it goes into another flashback. It's like flashbackception and whatnot.
Well, I think we're definitely going to get another... I think we get another glimpse of young Taiko. Yeah, we are very, 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 very nearly at the end now, thank God.
Well, the sure has been a movie, so we've got about 6 minutes left, so, Rich.
Yes.
Start summing up your thoughts, please.
Only Yesterday is okay. I'm glad that it got a really positive critical reception when a dub finally came out in America. It's wonderful. And I have to say, I think that the dub of this film has been pretty excellent in the grand scheme of things, although, as I've said, not sure about the American-British duality that they've had. That doesn't make any sense to me in my mind, but still. But it's too long, it's too slow, and while it's got very interesting stuff going on in it, it just needed to be shorter, just trim the fat, just focus on the stuff that's important to a plot. And I think that would have greatly improved things, because as it stands, it sits as merely okay for me. So, yeah.
Only Yesterday is a film that I can understand where they're coming from, especially what they're trying to do. It's a biography. But unfortunately, like we mentioned, it's too bloated. You know, a lot of it is just navel-gazing, and while I appreciate a good bit of introspection, and, you know, some of the flashbacks were engaging, some of them not so much, Again, I have to think about my own personal enjoyment of this, and not other people's reception of it, or whatever. This is cute, I'll go with that. I don't know. This is the film I've enjoyed the least out of all the Ghibli films we've watched thus far. I just wish it was a bit snappier, a bit better paced, and I wish it had more of a point, honestly, if all that reminiscing had a point, because now she's just heading home, and unless something happens...
Well, something is going to happen. It takes its time. Obviously, it's happening through the credits, but effectively, you know, she's decided to stay in the countryside to, you know, have a relationship with Toshio, but it's the fact that it takes pretty much all the way into the credits to get to that point that it's just like, yeah, you could have, you know, finished about 5 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
Would have made it so much better.
Okay, that I like, but it doesn't save the rest of the film. And as such, I'm going to give this a C. That's just a C on the nose, because it is a beautiful film. I adore the backgrounds. The character models are interesting, but the whole film is slick. The music isn't really type I typically look for in a Ghibli film, but it's nice, it's serviceable, and the voice acting is great. But it's just the story and the pacing and the needless navel-gazing that does the film in terms of quality for me, and I'm sorry if we came off as overly negative, but I have to be honest when it comes to stuff like this.
Oh, definitely. So, yeah, I would also give it a C ranking overall, because, yeah, for exactly the same reasons as obviously I've already said. But it's over! Yay!
I enjoyed watching it, but I don't know if I'll watch it again, which is not something I can say for like Nausicaa or Go with the Fireflies or Kiki.
Yes, definitely. Like, I definitely will not be watching this again.
Alright, let's see the romantic moment.
See the reunion, and they can run up to each other and kiss, and it'll be like, ah, it's all romantic. This bit's quite cute though, because so that whole triangle thing, if you remember way back at the start of the movie, with Hirota, there was that little arrow thing with their names. So that's basically implying that they're a couple now, which is cute.
Okay.
That's the end of the film. Woo!
It ended on a nice note, but unfortunately Only Yesterday, like we said, gets a C from both of us. And, yeah, that's it, guys. Please join us tomorrow if you're not already bored out of your minds for Porco Rosso. See you then.